No one would have to wait around. Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to set it so we didn't have to do any opening up a new meeting or such, so I think this is the
Absolutely.
easiest way to do it. But right, there will be nothing afterwards to come back in.
Except to adjourn. All right.
Which we'll have to technically do an open session.
Correct.
But nobody has to be here.
Right.
There's no more meeting to happen
Correct.
at that point, other than adjourn.
Right. All right. We had a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Vote, please. Did we get a motion?
Yeah, we have a motion. Are we changing the agenda?
Oh, no, because I'm gonna
Okay.
still
Okay.
talk about it.
Okay.
Thank
Yes,
you.
we have a motion and a second. My apologies.
Vote, please.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheppel?
Yes. Commendation and good news.
I would just direct your attention to the nonpareil for the last 2 weeks. There have been some tremendous articles in the nonpareil.
Thank you.
The article with where the high school had the recent graduates in, picture of Logan Jones on the front, a tremendous, wonderful article there. There's just been some great interests, and Tim has done a marvelous job with that. Kudos.
Thank you.
So,
I agree.
Anyone else? All right. We'll go to comments and suggestions. This is the first time during our agenda that anyone in the audience or anyone online, if they want to type something to chat with us about, can address the board. All right. Hearing none, we'll go on to consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve? We have an updated personnel sheet.
we do. We have several changes. They are noted with the asterisks on the screen.
Is there any discussion? Vote, please.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Stoffer?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheppel?
Yes. Report 6.01 COVID-related updates.
Thank you. Well, I think to really sum it up, we are definitely experiencing the same surge that we're seeing outside of school, and as we know, actually all around the country. If you look at what I call a heat map from CDC right now, the country is back to being all red, and it was for a while, especially in the south and even a little bit to our west. There were pockets of blue, yellow, and brown, tan, which all meant different things. I think it took us a little while for that to start impacting us here, but it is definitely impacting us now, and clearly you don't have to look far. Whether you watch the local news or the local newspaper, you'll see that we're seeing it in the hospitals and in our community and such, and we're seeing it here. So we're starting to see an uptick in all of our schools, a larger uptick than we've had probably in not quite our highest peak this year so far was back in right shortly after we got into school. We hit about 26 positive cases, students and staff district wide. That fell short of what we had in November of 2020 when we were up in the 40s, but we were growing in that way. Last couple of days and last week and starting this week, we're in the low to middle 20s. So, and we're clearly going up. We're clearly going up. All of our schools have infections. Probably one of the bigger concerns right now is that our staff, the number of infections in our staff are growing pretty quickly. So Why that's a concern, obviously, is because we want to be able to maintain school, and we're really in kind of a bind if we get to a point where we can't, whether that's because of bus drivers, too few bus drivers, or whether that's because we don't have substitute teachers. But just to remind everyone that the state took away the local board's ability to make decisions or have their superintendent make decisions about whether or not we need to close. In other words, if we close, it's just like a snow day. We really can't do remote learning anymore like we had kind of set up and moved in that direction to be prepared for. I think we can seek help from the state on that, but earlier this year, school district AHSTW, they had to close for a week, and they could never even get a call back from the Department of Education. And I think to this day, never has gotten a call back from them for any assistance. So let's hope we don't get there. You know, we've been fortunate that throughout this thing, every time we're kind of hanging by a thread, we inch on by, and we'll keep doing the same things we've been doing to try to fend it off. I have had some emails, people saying, you know, what's the latest with masking, and I have to remind people that we kind of settled that with a plan that really was attractive to a lot of people who criticize on both sides of the argument, but we rolled that out in October, I believe, and that's monitoring that threshold of 3% positivity rate in each school and looking at each school individually. Good news is we're not there yet. In fact, we're knock on wood, we'll see what tomorrow morning brings as far as moving in that direction. The weekly update that I sent to the board last week, the highest was the high school was just shy of 1%, so they were 0.99. And it's just interesting how this thing ebbs and flows, because back in 2020, 2020 or 2019, I don't know. Yeah, back in 2020, we had most of an issue with COVID in the high schools, and very, very little in the, especially CREFT. But it would ebb and flow, and then it's been different places, different time. This year we've had a wave where it really peaked to a higher amount at Titan Hill, and that went away. We had a wave where it peaked to a little higher amount at the middle school, and ever since that time, where I think the high school back in 2020 got up to about 22 positives just in their building, and since then they've had maybe a high point has maybe been 5 or 6, and now they're really starting to ramp up. I think we had 14 the other day. So it's just, there's no real rhyme or reason to where it seems to show up, inside of our district. But again, we monitor it every day. We pay very close attention to it every day, and we'll continue to do that. And my biggest worry again is staff and not having substitute teachers at the right amount to cover classes. We're not there yet. But there's just worry that we could get there. And then also transportation. Clearly we have a lot of students that, what's our percentage, Dave, our percentage of ridership in transportation students?
Well, the elementary is much higher than secondary.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you the number right off.
Yeah, I feel like I had that number at one time, but I don't want to guess at it. But it's a high number.
1,200 students
Yeah.
for elementary.
That rely on transportation.
There's only one building that you can actually walk
Well, that's
to.
true. That's true.
I
But
mean,
I
you
think
can't walk to any the other.
we did learn back when we first came back in session, when the state had closed us down for the remainder of the school year a few years ago, and a lot of parents chose to drive their children. So we know that there are parents that can make that decision, but there's still a large number of our families that school's not possible without that. So that's, I worry about those 5 a.m. talks on the phone of, we're not talking about snow, we're not talking about this, we're talking about the fact that we can't transport our kids. So I've worried about that before in the last few years since we've been dealing with COVID, but and we always get by. So I'm going to hope, but I just want to be realistic that that's always a bit of a threat. It's not unique to us. It's what every superintendent's talking about, not only in our region, but throughout the state and throughout the country. So we'll continue to monitor. I really think that's all I wanted to bring up tonight regarding COVID, just watching the numbers and just a little bit of an update of where they stand, and we'll see where it goes.
Okay. Thank you. Second report, 6.02, Superintendent Search Update. Tonight we will be going into closed session to discuss our applications. We have 18 applications that we will be reviewing, and then next week we will decide tonight between 5 and 8 of those candidates who we will do a video interview with, and then from those we will go to our finalists, 2 or 3. So that's really our update right now. We will be talking about in closed session tonight. And now we'll go on to our discussion items. 7.01, OSHA mandatory employee vaccine policy, regulations, and exhibits.
So I thought that possibly, which is why Andrea sent the reminder at the beginning of the meeting, that maybe I would just have you pull this, but I thought, it's probably okay to just have a real quick conversation, or there may not be questions because it's kind of moot, but and then just say that we just do no action on it because there's no action to do. We would not want to put this in place the way it reads, because the way it reads, which what I'm understanding right now is that it's what I'm being told, that this will not be something that we'll be dealing with in Iowa. I tend to think that there's still the possibility of it going back and forth in the political realm and in the courts, and Iowa claiming what Iowa can do and federal claiming what they can do. And I understand that division of labor is a division, but it's perplexing to me. If Iowa could do this all along, why they waited till Saturday to make this announcement? They didn't do anything differently. They just made an announcement, said, oh, by the way, we're not going to follow OSHA. And I don't know what happened on Saturday for them to come up to that conclusion that they would make that comment. Maybe they were just waiting to see if the Supreme Court would act immediately and make it easy on them. But needless to say, it's not something we're mandated. There are some questions I've heard from people today, so you should do it anyway. And what I've tried to help people understand is that the facilitation, as it was, we were going to do our best, and we were trying to do our best, but it'd be very, very difficult the way it is laid out to enforce and to monitor and to keep track of. And we were worried about that. I appreciated that the analysis, when we were told we need to follow it, said that a good faith effort would be acceptable, because I felt like that was about as best as we could do, would be a good faith effort, which is what we were doing. But at this time, it remains to be seen what's going to happen to it. Both, I don't know if Iowa's decision will end up being challenged. I'm sure that it very well could be, and we still don't know what the Supreme Court's going to do. But in the meantime, legal counsel has made it very clear that it's not something that employers of 100 people or greater and or school districts in that same boat are required to follow. And as confusing as it is right now, as I've tried to help people understand today, that is probably a good thing for us, because when something is implemented with a host of confusion, it's usually not all that effective. And there's just too much confusion on how this was rolled out, who we were following, what we needed to do, legal counsel interpreting for us what this may say, and differing opinions from different legal counsels. So The idea is, I don't really think, I'm not saying vote to table it. I'm not saying vote to postpone it. I'm just saying let's just do no action on it.
Okay.
And I will, of course,
Just be the discussion item and we will not have an
yes,
action.
we won't
Okay.
do any action on it because it is, what we'll do, I mean, these were IASB recommended policies, which is our policy service. So if it, and I read through them as I'm sure you all did, it follows what the OSHA mandate says. So if it would at any point become a requirement on our part, then I would bring these policies right back to you. But the way they're worded, when I'm being told that Iowa's saying, no, we're not going to, and therefore we never will follow, I don't want to put them in place in the state of Iowa, even if they're just sitting there in case, because they're worded as though this is what we will do. So I would just say, yes, no action, but I thought to leave it on and do a little bit of an explanation like that was maybe a good thing.
So basically, we are not going to review each one or anything.
No.
We'll just go ahead, and if it does come to us again, we'll have it on the agenda, and then at that time, we can review it. if
Right, and a
needed.
reminder, just as we would have tonight, when something is required by law, we're not required to do multiple readings. So if the Supreme Court would have already said it was constitutional and had the Iowa Department of Labor not put out what they put out, well, then we would just be doing it on one reading tonight because it would be a law that went into effect today. So, but now that it isn't, we'll hold that. But if it were to come back up, and we would use the same policies again, unless, of course, there's a dynamic that changes in what the Supreme Court says. If it causes Iowa to think differently, I don't know. I have to be honest. I think I understand, as in, reading it and understanding, a mandate versus a law. But it's perplexing to me as why it took until Saturday for people to have that analysis of it and for that to make a difference like that. So,
I think it's because it's coming through OSHA, and Iowa has its own OSHA governing body.
and they have for
Yeah.
the
one of
length of
20
this.
Some states, yeah.
Yeah, they have for the duration of this. So I don't know why that was a revelation, other than that maybe because of the threat of some suit coming toward them. I'm speculating here, but that maybe they thought, well, let's wait and see if the Supreme Court comes out and acts on it real quick and puts the kibosh on it, well, then it would be moot for Iowa's Division of Labor to do that. But that is exactly correct. Iowa Division of Labor doesn't follow OSHA, but they knew that before Saturday. So here we are.
Okay. So we discussed this, and that'll be all we'll have to do with it. Does anyone have any questions? All right. 7.02, modified supplemental amount for at-risk dropout prevention.
Now I'll turn it over to Dave for this piece.
Sure. Annually, the board's required, because this is a taxing that we do for our patrons, annually we need to approve the modified supplemental amount for at-risk dropout prevention. As you recall, this funds a number of very important pieces of programming for us here at Lewis Central. There's reading and math supplemental services at the high school, middle school. There's all the alternative school programming that happens at the high school. All of the credit recovery mechanisms that are in place there. It provides one at-risk counselor and bits and pieces of other at-risk counselors in our system. We use it to support our partnership with Heartland Family Service in providing some therapeutic services in mental health for students in our system on-site. We also provide some youth-based services supporting attendance through partnership with the AA and the court system for school-based interventionists for attendance. And then we also partner with the AEA to provide some family social work services for our elementary students. And then we also provide teammates, mentor program coordination, et cetera. What we do is we calculate the total amount of the required budget up to a threshold that the DE allows us to do. And then we are able to tax ourselves for 75% of that money. We need a 25% match locally. And we have gotten to the point now in our system where we're asking you to approve the maximum taxing authority for this modified supplemental amount application. So that totals $645,526, and it will require a general fund match of $215,175.33.
Is there any questions? Okay, thank you very much. We'll go on. This is the second portion, or a second time during our agenda that we'll take comments and suggestions from the audience or anyone online. Hearing that we have none online and no one is standing up in the audience, so we will go to our action items. The 9.01 was only a discussion, so we'll go to 9.02, modified supplement amount for at-risk dropout prevention.
Could I just say, just for the record, I think we ought to say for one, since I left it on there, that the superintendent recommends no action. Just so that's kind of
Okay.
how that's worded in the minutes. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
Madam Chairman,
Mr. Stoffer.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize a total modified supplemental amount of $645,526 for the 2022-2023 school year.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Stoffer?
Yes.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Shuffle?
Yes. And now we will go to our work session 10.01, review superintendent applicants and discuss all that needs to be done for our superintendent search. Can I get a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Can we
Oh.
hold on a vote for a moment?
Sure.
Mr. Hendricks has entered the meeting.
And Mr. Wiledge just texted me and said that he has not got the email yet.
What's it to a school email account?
Okay.
We're ahead of schedule.
Absolutely.
Made some good time.
I can call his vote. If we can, that would be fantastic. If not, it's
We
no
can just
worries.
head nod. Oh, we could. Not having a good day.
The backup, if Daryl does not get logged in for whatever reason, we can just have him.
I can send it to his AOL or his MSN account too. If you can just do that.
Why don't you just do that anyway? Send them both.
All three. It's just-
He now has been sent that message for all of his various accounts.
Okay. we offline? So, public, not yet? Got it. Just want to make sure.
And
There's Daryl.
Mr. Wyledge has entered the meeting virtually as well. And we have a motion and a second on the floor to go into closed session.
Did we have a motion? Who made the motion? Okay. Got it? Got it. Okay. Any
Which
discussion?
one were we doing?
Yes, that one. She's got it, I'm sure.
Yes.
Can I have a vote, please?
Mr. Stoffer,
Yes.
Mr. Wyledge,
Daryl, you're going to need to, oh, I take that back. Try again.
Looks like he's talking, but it's not coming through.
I saw him talk.
Oh, there we go. Now we're loud. Try one more time, Daryl.
Yes.
Got it.
thank you.
There we go.
Ms. Atkins,
Yes.
Mr. Hendricks,
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel,
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson,
Yes.
Mrs. Sheppel.
Yes.
We are now in closed session.